There was a time when walking into the wrong stadium could feel like walking into enemy territory. The concrete shook. The stands were packed. The noise never stopped. And for the visiting team, the match could feel psychologically difficult before the first tackle. These stadiums weren't just places to play football. They were part of the weapon. But look at modern football. Glass, steel, luxury suites, massive screens, perfect lighting, immaculate pitches. Stadiums have never looked better. So why does something feel different? Because perhaps, in making stadiums more comfortable, football has slowly changed one of its oldest psychological weapons: intimidation. And that raises a fascinating question. Has modern stadium design accidentally made home advantage less powerful? Chapter 1. What home advantage really means. Home advantage is often explained simply. You know the pitch. You know the surroundings. Your fans are behind you. The referee may feel the atmosphere. But psychology adds another layer. A home stadium can create familiarity for one team and discomfort for the other. The visiting player doesn't just enter another football ground. He enters an environment where thousands of people want him to fail. Every misplaced pass gets a reaction. Every tackle gets louder. Every decision against the home team creates another wave of pressure. The stadium becomes part of the psychological battle. But there is a problem. The modern footballer is increasingly familiar with these environments. Elite players travel constantly. They play in enormous stadiums. They experience Champions League nights, international tournaments, high-pressure away games. They've seen almost everything. So the question becomes, can architecture still intimidate someone who has already experienced every version of football's biggest stage? Chapter 2. The psychology of noise. Noise is one of the oldest weapons in football. A huge crowd can change how a match feels. Communication becomes harder. Players have to concentrate more intensely. A goalkeeper may struggle to communicate with defenders. A visiting player can feel surrounded. And for decades, this atmosphere became part of football's identity. But modern stadiums are different. They are engineered, designed for sightlines, comfort, safety, hospitality, commercial experiences. The goal isn't simply to create chaos. It's to create an incredible event. And that's where the psychological contradiction appears. The best modern stadiums are designed to make thousands of people comfortable, while the old fortresses were often designed around something very different, making the opponent uncomfortable. The question isn't whether modern stadiums are better. They obviously are in many ways. The question is, better for whom? Chapter 3. From fortress to entertainment. Look around a modern stadium. Corporate boxes, premium seating, restaurants, digital screens, open concourses, spectacular architecture. Everything is designed to create a premium experience. And that makes commercial sense. Football has become a global entertainment industry. But atmosphere doesn't always come from comfort. Sometimes, it comes from friction. A tightly packed crowd. Supporters standing shoulder to shoulder. A wall of sound behind the goal. A visiting player walking toward the corner knowing thousands of people are waiting for him to make a mistake. That psychological friction creates something difficult to manufacture. Belonging. The home supporters feel that the stadium belongs to them, and the visitor feels that it doesn't. But when stadiums become increasingly standardized, luxurious, and internationally familiar, does some of that psychological separation disappear? Perhaps the modern stadium hasn't eliminated home advantage. Perhaps it has simply changed what creates it. Chapter 4. The modern player is different. There is another piece of the puzzle. The player. Today's elite footballers aren't ordinary visitors. They are professionals trained to operate under pressure. They have psychologists, analysts, recovery teams, nutritionists, tactical preparation. They arrive knowing exactly what environment they're entering. The tunnel isn't mysterious anymore. The stadium isn't unfamiliar. The opposition isn't an unknown threat. And that matters psychologically. Fear works best when uncertainty is high. But familiarity reduces uncertainty. The visiting team knows what to expect. They know where they'll warm up. They know the pitch. They know the atmosphere. They've played under thousands of supporters before. So perhaps the modern footballer's greatest defense against home advantage isn't tactical. It's psychological adaptation. They've learned how to make an away stadium feel normal. And that could be one reason the psychological gap between home and away teams can feel smaller than it once did. Chapter 5. The fortress was never the building. But here's the most important part. Maybe we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe home advantage was never really about the stadium. It was about what happened inside it. The noise. The identity. The connection between supporters and players. The feeling that everyone was fighting for the same thing. A modern stadium can have 50,000 seats and still feel strangely quiet. Another stadium can be decades old and feel impossible to survive. Because architecture creates the environment, but people create the pressure. The most intimidating stadium isn't necessarily the newest or the oldest. It's the one where the opponent feels the psychological weight of being the outsider. And that is something no architect can completely manufacture. The new home advantage. So the next time you watch a huge modern stadium, don't just look at the roof, the screens, the seats, the architecture. Watch the players. Watch the visiting team's body language. Listen to how the crowd reacts to every decision. Watch whether the stadium feels like a football ground or simply a spectacular entertainment venue. Because home advantage isn't just about where you play. It's about how the opponent feels while they're there. Maybe football hasn't lost its fortresses. Maybe the fortress has simply moved. From concrete to sound. From architecture to identity. From intimidation to psychology. And perhaps the future of home advantage won't be decided by who builds the biggest stadium. It will be decided by who can make their stadium feel like home to one team and impossible to escape for the other.